So let's talk about this second full moon in Aquarius happening on August 22nd. The last one happened on July 24th. And so we're going to start out by discussing the fact that the moon is in Aquarius and what that means. So the moon is at 29 degrees Aquarius. So this is the anaretic or the final degree. And what that symbolizes is something we'll cover in a little bit. But basically, it's conjunct to Jupiter retrograde, which is around 27 degrees. And so our moon is actually further ahead in Aquarius than Jupiter. But generally speaking, when the moon is in Aquarius, and in this case, it's in the fourth house at the time of the the opposition with the sun. And this is about remaining emotionally detached from beliefs or what other people are saying in order to stay emotionally in control. So Jupiter retrograde in Aquarius is about questioning logical convictions and questioning our beliefs and questioning things such as science, technology, or like perhaps even the motives behind it, or like the reasoning behind stuff. And since the moon is conjunct this and it's in Aquarius where it is debilitated to a certain extent, actually technically it's debilitated in Scorpio, right? But when the moon is in Aquarius, it's in the 8th sign from its own sign. So I kind of think of it as debilitated because it indicates somebody that is emotionally detached, and they do this in order to have emotional control over themselves. So they suppress their emotions, or they don't relate very much through emotions. And that's kind of a weak place for the moon to be, you know? So when it's conjunct to Jupiter retrograde, that's why we will be attempting to remain detached from what other people are saying. And this kind of reminds me of the energy and the vibration of the illness that's going around in the world and all the different camps, all the different beliefs. And pretty soon, what I'll be talking about soon also is that there will be new sanctions and new restrictions, and there will be new laws put in place or new social limitations and whatnot. And those kind of things will be returning in the fall and the winter for the most part in some way and in some parts of the world. But depending on how we react to things and how we respond, we can stop those things, or like things can play out differently. But in the astrology, I see that this will be a major kind of theme that can easily play out. But anyways, since the moon is a little bit further than Jupiter retrograde, this means that our conclusions are a little bit ahead of our doubts. So our conclusions are a little bit stronger than our doubts about what people are saying. So we are more convinced about ourselves. But during this time, we will be attempting to remain emotionally detached from people's convictions or what people are saying to us, which is Jupiter. So, okay, that's moon conjunct Jupiter in Aquarius, and that's the general meaning of this full moon. And since the moon is full, we will be feeling this very strongly within the time period of that new moon. So you might feel events that happen, or you might experience events that day or that week or a few days before. And then that's going to be a theme, for several weeks to come. But this will be kind of a initiator period. So next we have Uranus trine to Mars in Virgo. And this is a strong trine. They're exactly at 15 degrees each. Uranus is in Taurus and Mars is in Virgo. Now, with that being said, what this indicates is that people will be expressing the need to rebel or the need to have freedom with more ease. And they'll usually be communicative about it because Mars is conjunct to Mercury. So People will be rebelling through aggressive forms of communication and also through criticism, because Mars is in Virgo. So people will be pointing out flaws, details, evidence, and facts in order to support their beliefs during this time, especially regarding the events of this world and the changes that might happen in society during this time. And Mercury is a little bit ahead of Mars, so this indicates that people will be thinking before they act, and people will be calculated about what they say and what they express, but they will be very convinced. And also there will be a lot of learning that will happen, like a lot of new information that can go around from this time period. Now, since the sun is on the Virgo cusp, it's at 29 degrees Leo, also at the anaretic degree, the final degree of that sign. This indicates that we have almost like a stellium of Virgo energy, because both Mars and Mercury are in Virgo. And what this indicates is a focus on evidence and being realistic, a focus on facts, or just in general, a focus on health and a focus on routine. There will be a lot of energy around health and small things, small details, small illnesses, small events, like any type of evidence, any type of facts, any type of minute things that are important. And this may play out differently for different people depending on what their consciousness is focused on, and depending on what matters to you in the world. But since there's a stellium, we will be heavily oriented around what is real, and we will be oriented around what is unconscious to others. So the reason is because Virgo is the 12th sign from Libra. Libra is the perspectives of others, and Virgo is what they are not conscious of. So we will be very adamant about what people may or may not be conscious of. That's why people will be pointing out flaws, facts, and details, and people don't want to hear any more faith-based information. They don't want to hear any more rhetoric. They want to hear evidence, or they want to point out evidence, and they want to confirm things. So since the sun is in late Leo, meaning it's at the 29 degree, which is the final degree, and what this indicates is when a planet is at the final degree, it starts to want to break free. 29, the number adds to 11. 11 is associated with rebellion. It's associated with the sign of Aquarius to me, and that's just something also other people, other numerologists and astrologers can confirm. But even myself, I feel like 11 relates to this feeling of wanting to create new avenues or create a new lane for oneself, or to do things differently, or to push the boundaries, push the edge. No pun intended. And that's exactly where the sun is at. It's at the final degree of Leo. And what I covered about Leos in my Leo series is how Leo indicates a sense of conviction, and also it indicates this desire to learn, and this ability to learn very quick. Leos are the fastest learners of the zodiac, because if you think about it, the sign of Leo is the third sign from the third house. It's third from third, which is about thinking and intelligence. And it's also ninth from ninth. It's the ninth sign from the ninth house. It's ninth from Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is about knowledge. So Leo is the sign of knowledge squared and intelligence squared, if that makes any sense in an astrological sense. So what that really adds up to is somebody that's a very fast learner. And Leo rules children. And what do we know about children? And the age of childhood, up till around the age of 13 is where you can assimilate knowledge at an extreme rate. And so we see Leo manifest in that way as well. But that's the learning aspect of Leo. They are great learners. But since the sun is in late Leo, this means people are getting tired of just hearing or learning, and instead they want to verify or refine things. That's what the Virgo cusp is about. And when a planet is in late Leo, there's this desire to take learning even further, or to take information even further, or to take convictions even further. Leo sun is very much about conviction and confidence. And based on what you learn, you're very confident about it. And also based on basic intelligence, you're very confident about what it is that you know. That's what a Leo sun would indicate. But in this case, it's pushing the edge. It's at the 29th degree. So people are not convinced anymore. They really want to verify things or refine it with evidence, science, and they're more doubtful and stuff. Next up, let's talk about Venus being in Libra. So during this time, we will be relating to others through social expectations. So in a way, this can be quite restrictive. And if you know Libras, they can restrict themselves in order to appeal to others, and they can restrict their way of acting. It can almost feel challenging for them to express themselves in a direct and honest way, because they are the sign of opposition. So when Venus is in Libra, it makes us very pleasant with each other, but at the expense of our own internal chaos or our own internal frustration. And so when Venus is in Libra, it can seem pleasant, but there can be some form of social inhibitions and having to relate through people's expectations. So it has its positives, but it also has its negatives. And in this case, with the descendant of this chart being in Gemini and it's conjunct to Lilith and it's conjunct to the North Node, this indicates that people will be feeling frustration or feeling rebellious, and that may build up internally. So you may feel frustrated with people that you don't really get along with in terms of how you guys perceive things during this time. Or maybe there's a situation that you're going through in your life where people are perceiving things differently than you, and it's starting to get under your skin. And that's what Lilith being conjunct the descendant, or basically being in the 7th house, is about. And Venus is feeling frustrated and it wants to rebel. But the fact that it's in Libra is restricting it. It's like a prison. It's putting on this pleasant facade. And anyways, on the internal, it feels different. So the way I get the ascendant for this chart is I put the coordinates at 0 degrees and 0 degrees east. And essentially, at the time of the exact opposition, the ascendant that was rising, or the constellation that was rising on the horizon from the center of the earth, was Sagittarius. And not from the center of the earth, but from the point of view of the center of the earth, which is 0 degrees north, 0 degrees east. At least that's just what I put. And so the ascendant is actually conjunct to the south node. So this is indicating that during this time, we may all feel blinded by our beliefs and our unconscious perception of things. And since the south node shows something, damn, that's a tongue twister, that we must detach from in order to progress, we may be feeling stubborn to our point of view of things. And we may be put under an illusion of what it is that we are convinced about. And again, with the moon being in Aquarius and it being conjunct Jupiter retrograde, we will be really trying to remain emotionally detached from what other people are saying in order to stay convinced and stay secure in our own beliefs. But the South Node is showing to somewhat remain detached from your point of view of things. And since the part of fortune is in the 7th house, as it is on every full moon, and it's conjunct the descendant, which is the ascendant of other people, and it's conjunct the North Node, this indicates that in order to progress, we need to consider alternative perspectives than our own. And we need to listen, but not pick sides. See, that's what the 7th house is about. It's not about choosing who's right. It's literally about listening. And that's why in numerology, 7 is the number of spirituality and seeking truth. And it's about quiet and solitude sometimes, or just juggling perspectives in your mind. So this is not a time to come to conclusions, and not even to come to your own conclusion, but to listen to other perspectives and not pick sides. With Neptune being opposite Mercury, this indicates that illusion or delusions could be clouding our mental judgment and our communication. And basically what we will be experiencing is that we will hear what we want to hear when we're listening to other people. Like, so it might cloud our judgment. So you got to be aware to not be so fixed on your point of view and to think that people are contradicting you all the time. Instead, you need to find a way that everyone can agree. That's what the 7th house is about. And that's what the North Node being conjunct the 7th house cusp is about, and the part of fortune. So things will manifest much more easily if you can find agreement. If both of you guys can also progress in some way from your previous perspective. And ultimately, if you guys can agree, and since it's conjunct Lilith, this is about rebelling. So people need to agree that a lot of the things that are happening in society are not acceptable, and that no situation or no illness or no excuses can justify the system that we are building in so many places around the world, and that we are allowing governments and people to build. That's what Lilith is about, and Lilith is conjunct the North Node. Lilith is about going your own way. It's about rebelling, especially for emotional reasons. So though we won't be able to agree from a logical perspective, we will all be able to agree from an emotional standpoint that a lot of the things that we're doing and that we are experiencing as citizens and as humans of the same collective are unpleasant or are frustrating, and we need to speak up. But we need to find a way to agree on that. You know what I mean? So that's what the North Node conjunct Lilith, and it's conjunct the part of fortune, meaning things will manifest way more easily once that happens, once agreement can be found. Now, since Neptune is opposite Mercury, like I said, and Neptune is retrograde, this is this fear of being deceived, clouding our judgment. So based on the fact that we're trying to remain detached from what people are saying in order to stay strong in our own faith, like Neptune retrograde is also showing this this trait of no longer believing things, or no longer assuming things, and no longer accepting anecdotal evidence, no longer believing things that you see from media. For some people, they apply that to mainstream media, and other people, they apply it to social media. But really, we're just reflecting each other. So some people do not want to believe at all the mainstream media. Other people, they don't want to at all believe social media. You get what I mean? But in general, none of us should be believing any media. We should be agreeing amongst each other. So with that being said, that's what Neptune retrograde is. And Neptune rules the 12th house, which is about media, imagination, vision, pictures, assumptions, and information that is not presented, you know? And that's what video is. Video is when you point a camera at something and you get the right angle, or you or you set up a script with a certain amount of information, but you choose the information and you choose what you don't put. Media or videos, whether it's social media or mainstream media, are not an accurate representation of reality. And Neptune retrograde is basically showing us that people are tired of assuming things, and they're no longer believing those types of things because they realize this. And so since it's opposite Mercury, people have this fear of being deceived that is actually clouding their judgment. And so they don't want to listen to others at this time. And they have a fear of making assumptions. With that being said, the last thing we're going to talk about is Uranus going retrograde in Taurus as of August 19th. So basically at the time that the moon is getting very full. And so this indicates limitations to freedom, especially financial limitations or access to certain resources. And since Uranus will be retrograde for the next several months until January 22nd, so exactly, let's see, it's August, 5 months, it will be retrograde. We will be losing access to certain resources during this time. Due to social expectations or limitations or laws or restrictions, or you will have to do certain actions in order to unlock privileges. That's a big theme that's going on in the world. And that's what Uranus retrograde in Taurus, which is the sign of access to resources. It's the sign of money. It's the sign of value. It's the sign of self-sufficiency. So yeah, limitations to freedom and also financial freedom. So a lot of people have been getting into things such as cryptocurrencies and making a lot of money investing in their futures doing that. But there are laws and governments are starting to try to convene and come up with ways to tax that stuff, or like create definitions that will allow them to put their hand in people's pots. Because right now the tax code is unclear, and in fact, I would say cryptocurrencies are not a logically taxable thing, and that's why people are able to achieve financial freedom through them. But governments will be creating laws, which is indicated by Venus and Libra, and social expectations that may reverse the progress or the innovation that's happening in the financial sector, which is Taurus. So anyways, that wraps up this full moon report in Aquarius. And the moon is at the 29th degree of Aquarius. So this indicates this strong emotional need for freedom. And in fact, like I said, at the 29th degree, this is about breaking free. And in fact, the planet starts to get frustrated and it starts to want to do more and to go towards the extreme, but it still keeps the qualities of the sign. So with that being said, the moon is in Aquarius, so it wants so much freedom that it's starting to take on a Piscean trait. So it starts to want solitude. We start to want to detach and go to faraway places, or we may want to change or relocate where we're from and go somewhere fresh and kind of cleanse or detach, or like rinse away all the things and the people that are getting in the way of our sanity and our well-being. And that's what Pisces is about. It's about healing, solitude, retreat. And so when the moon is in Aquarius, it still wants to deal with people, but at the same time is so rebellious that it kind of wants to take on traits of Pisces, and it does. So you may feel this need to be more solitude or in solitude, or to relocate. So that wraps up this full moon horoscope. If that resonated, let me know how that plays out for you. And also, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. For natal chart inquiries and readings, I do those as well. And the information for that is in the description. So other than that, I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you guys sometime soon in another video. Peace.